Good morning, dear students of class 12th. Yesterday we had a brief introduction about invitations, which comes under short composition in your English syllabus. So today we are going to learn how to draft a formal invitation. Now, as said earlier in yesterday's class, that man is a social animal. And as the civilization progressed, man felt the need of organizing, celebrating, participating in social gatherings. You yourself have sometimes been invited or have invited people for social functions. Sometimes the function is on a smaller scale and very personal, close relatives or friends are invited, and for that we give an informal invitation, which is in the form of a letter, informal letter, or you can also SMS or telephonically invite a person. We are going to take up informal invitations in the next class, but today we are going to discuss how to draft a formal invitation. I think we discussed yesterday about when do we need to draft a formal invitation. Well, formal invitations are of two types. They are in the form of a card or a letter. Now, when we are inviting a person formally for any function, any public function, or any occasion which is formal, where we are inviting a number of people, then it's a formal invite is given, and it is through a formal card. Now, when do we write a formal letter of invitation? Take for instance, if you are inviting somebody for a function, a VIP, to preside over the function or to be the chief guest of a function, and for that you need cards to be printed, but before that you have to take consent of that person about his availability. So on such occasions, you write a formal letter of invitation. So today we are going to concentrate on how to write a formal invitation in the form of a card. Now, what are the things to keep in mind? First of all, formal invitations are in third person. No abbreviations are used. In the end of each line, we do not use abbreviations. If required, in the middle you can use. Now, keep this invitation center aligned. There is no punctuation at the end of the lines. Well-defined layout and presentation in a single line. The layout is in a single sentence, well defined. Each entry is mentioned in a separate line. Supposingly the entry is too big, long, you can use the second line, but in an artistic manner, you have to center align this. In RSVP, you write the address and telephone number at which invitee may come for the function. Now, what does this word RSVP means? It is a French word which is taken and it is absorbed in English language. RSVP. Respondez s'il vous plaît. That is reply, please. Means courtesy demands if a person is invited, that person should inform the person who has invited whether he would be able to attend the function or not. Sometimes after RSVP, regrets only appear under the RSVP heading. Now what does this mean? That host expects you to inform him only in case you are not able to come to the function which is hosted by him. Otherwise, it is understood that you will come. Now, why do we need to mention RSVP? Means whenever formal functions are held, courtesy says that you must mention, if you receive such an invitation, whether you'll be able to come or not, whether you accept the invitation or you regret to accept due to some reasons. Now, in an official invitation, give specific time by which the guests are to be seated. The chief guest, sometimes program also can be mentioned. Now, why towards the end we need to give instructions? Sometimes take for instance, big dignitaries are invited. VIPs are invited as chief guest. It is expected that the guests are seated well in advance. So towards the end of the invitation, you can write note, guests are requested to be seated by this time. Or you can write instructions like valid for 2 only in case you want to limit the number of gathering. Then the content and the style should be appropriate to the demand of the question. And it must be in a box. Some of the important information can also be highlighted so that your invitation looks presentable and attractive. Remember, presentation counts. Now, we will take up this invitation and the question is, the Literary Society of Mount Carmel School is organizing a lecture session by the Nobel Prize winner V.S. Naipaul, writer. The president of the society asked Priya Singh, the secretary, to draft a formal invitation to be sent out to various schools. Draft Priya's invitation. So Priya is the secretary and she has been asked to draft this invitation. Now the first sentence. First of all, you see this invitation is in a box. The first sentence. Who is inviting? Usually it is the organization. The Literary Society, Mount Carmel School, Delhi. Means you don't have to put the punctuation marks in the end, but in the middle you can put. Has great pleasure in inviting you to this means you are requesting, you are tendering a polite line to invite the people. You can use phrases like cordially invite you, solicit your gracious presence, etc. To a what? Lecture. You can also give the title on lecture like critical appreciation or trends in the modern literature, like this, because he's a literary, so definitely he would be talking about academic literature related subjects. Who has been invited? The chief guest by eminent writer and Nobel Prize Winner V.S. Nopal. So you have written the credentials of the person and the name. Where in the school auditorium on Friday 20th July, you can mention the date at what time, whatever time it is. So remember that you mention the day, date, time and place. Here place is mentioned in the beginning. You can also mention it towards the end. Now RSVP, you write the name of the person who has drafted the invitation. Priya Singh, Secretary, what? Literary Society, Mount Carmel School. Phone number is also given. This card can also have instructions like guests are requested to be seated by this time. Thank you, students. We have taken up one example of how to draft a formal invitation in the form of a card. We are going to practice this. You will be given some more exercises which you will be doing in your notebooks. If there is any query, you are free to ask in the Google Classroom. You can post it or in your WhatsApp group. Thank you.